Welcome to those of you who are familiar with the FSI and anyone who's new here. The FSI is itself a small charity based in the UK, and the FSI is a membership organisation for small charities. This is a specific programme to develop the capacity of small international development charities in the UK, and we've got a whole host of things on offer through this programme, including training and webinars, events, bursaries, advice and mentoring, and you can find out what's on offer through the link there on the FSI's website. This is a programme funded by UK, and I do think it's important to make a sort of a comment on the recent aid cuts, because you know, the FSI exists to create a world with independent and effective and accountable charities, and you know, we were devastated to hear of the cuts to UK aid recently announced by FCDO, and of course yesterday the recent vote to keep those cuts in place. It was absolutely devastating, and our programme here seems to be one of the only UK aid funds that hasn't been directly affected by these cuts, but we are absolutely in solidarity with any organisations that have been affected, and we're just even more kind of passionate now about providing support for these small charities through this programme. So the event format for this event, there's going to be some pre and post event surveys. Remy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those will have gone out via email rather than taking place in the session here. We're going to be using breakout rooms and the chat function, and we'll not be using the Q&A function because we're just going to have an open discussion here. We will use the minutes to check attendance to see who is here, and any slides or resources that you see will be available in your learner portal under your resources the day after, so as of tomorrow. So you might see something saying that the event is being live streamed. It's not, that's just something that we're using for our captioning for accessibility. So anything that you discuss in the session, in the networking element, is just private between us. The case studies will be recorded to share with anybody who wasn't able to attend today. You can circulate email addresses on the chat function, and if you put your email address in there, we'll send them to everybody after the event. And I'll be running a poll at the end to see if anybody wants to take part in our peer matching scheme. And then just to comment on deposit refunds, so we were having some challenges around non-attendance, and so we've just introduced some small deposit scheme again to encourage people to attend, and those will be refunded after the post-event survey. And there'll be a short film kind of just highlighting the key topics coming from the case studies that you're going to see, that you'll be able to watch back and share with partners or anyone else that you might want to share those with. So following breakout rooms, if you can just come back promptly, you know, if anybody wants to ask a question, if you could use the raise your hand facility, or equally, if you've got your video on, you can raise your actual real hand. Please use mute if you've got any background noise going on. I think I'll be needing to make use of that function with my rabble upstairs. And you know, do feel free to sort of actively participate, and the more of us who can get involved and ask questions and answer questions, the better. Okay, so as I said, do feel free to introduce yourself, your name, the name of your charity, and your email address if you'd like to, and then we will get started now with our case studies. Who can remember who was going first? Let me, oh, sorry, Remy's just messaged to say there was no deposit for this one to be refunded, so just ignore my comment on that, do apologise. Amy, Marlene, Dan, who was up first? Was it Amy?
Yeah, I think it was me up
Yes.
first.
Amy, do you want to start sharing your screen then, Amy? So we've got Amy here. She's in Rwanda, she said. So we're going to be hearing about their work at a partner in education. So thanks, Amy. Take it away when you are ready.
Thank you very much. Yep, so my name is Amy Barnicott. I'm the CEO for a partner in education. I'm British, but I've been out in Rwanda for 8 years. So it's actually more than half of my adult life. I kind of consider myself to be more Rwandese than British these days, which is no bad thing, particularly this week, with what's been going on in the UK. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you about the Equip project, which was one of our UK aid funded projects. We've been very lucky as a small charity. To some extent, we've received 2 Small Charity Challenge Fund awards, and then we just had our 3rd one rescinded because we were a SCCF 6 grantee. So we're definitely feeling the struggles from the cuts and trying to work out what to do. But anyway, I wanted to focus today on one of our successes and something that I think, our position is quite unique, where I am the CEO, but I'm here in country. So we're able to do things from the ground, from the field, which gives us quite a unique vantage point for these things. So we've been working in Rwanda for 10 years. And we started by constructing a school here for pre-primary, primary, and now lower secondary children. We've got about 300 children in our school. And we've worked really closely with the teachers of the school. In fact, when I started with APIE, I was the head teacher of the school because we didn't have one. So one of my first jobs was to recruit a local head teacher and to then support the school with teacher training. My background from the UK is I'm a trained primary school teacher. So yeah, we've really kind of experienced all of that, from very closely training the teachers to finally winning a big, for us, grant fund from UK Aid Direct and being able to start the Equip project. So the project itself, my screen is not moving. I'm trying to go on to the next. There we go. We had 3 objectives for this project: to make an online training program that would feature Rwandan teachers and Rwandan children, so that the beneficiaries who would watch this, teachers in the rural areas, would be able to identify with what they were seeing, and it would help them to acquire some new skills in the pre-primary classroom. We wanted to increase the knowledge, skills and competence of the teachers, and also to increase the recognition of the importance of early childhood in Rwanda. So we started the project in a nice pre-COVID era, and expected to be able to go out to schools, having developed the course, having worked with the Rwandan Education Board to validate the course, and then to be able to go around to different schools and support them with studying the course, knowing that ICT skills and that kind of thing would be very tricky in Rwanda. But as lockdown hit for us in March last year, we realized it wasn't going to be possible for us to go out and support the teachers directly in schools, and we needed to find a different mechanism for running our course. So we made the decision to put it all online, and to provide some airtime internet data for teachers to find their own way, whether they had their own smartphone or knew somebody else who did, when they could do that safely, when the lockdown measures released a little bit and they could at least leave their homes, so that they could access the course. So that was the method that we used. And that this is one of the key kind of learning points I wanted to share today, because we were able to reach quite a large number of teachers without providing any devices. So we really spent the £50,000 of UK Aid SECF funding on delivering this project for the 2 years. We didn't have to spend anything on capital devices or hardware or anything like that, which I think meant that we were able to achieve a lot with that relatively small amount of money. So we created 6 online modules. You can see the photo here showing Umubano Academy with some filming going on. And the modules were on play-based methodology, and every unit contained information related to inclusive education, trying to encourage teachers to recognise how to support all children in classroom at the same time. So we were able to reach 445 beneficiaries, and you can see here the number that partially completed is higher than those that fully completed the course. It was not without its challenges. We had never intended to request teachers to do this on their own. We thought we would be able to support them a lot more and visit them and help and all the rest of it, and that wasn't possible. So we're very proud that we managed to reach the number of beneficiaries that we did, but it wasn't without its challenges, and we learned a lot from the process. So there are a number of outcomes from the project. We recognized that the pre-primary teachers engaged more with parents. They reported feeling more confident and capable. They recognized that doing the course itself helped them to improve their ICT skills. They learned how to support children by using differentiation. They were able to praise and motivate children more, and they learned lots of different strategies for playing with children, both inside and outside of the classroom. So we had a number of successful outcomes as a result of the project. Also, as part of our evaluation, we went into the schools and observed the classroom environments. And across the board, the sample schools that we went to evaluate had improvements as a result of our intervention, which was good to see. And we also observed a number of teachers and saw that the standards of teaching significantly improved in these sample lessons as a result of the intervention as well. And one of the teachers shared some quotes with us, saying that it's very important to teach lessons with all my heart, and to prepare in advance is helpful. Here's another photo from one of our intervention schools. And you can still see that the class doesn't have many resources, but at least the teacher has tried to do some drawings on the chalkboard, and all of the children are up. We're no longer seeing all the children sitting in rows and rote learning, but there's more interaction going on in the classroom, which is lovely to see. And the head teacher of this school said before, the nursery teachers used to make the students sit in one place. Now the students move around, they learn outside, and they play inside and outside. They do not get bored. So we found that the head teachers in the schools that we reached really wanted to use the course more with other teachers, and that they would recommend it to other head teachers across the country. They also said that the course had changed their understanding and attitudes towards pre-primary education. When we introduced the course, I asked the head teachers how many of them had experience in pre-primary education, and out of 200 head teachers, only 2 had ever taught in pre-primary, which again showed to us the need to have this course and to help head teachers to be able to lead these schools with a better understanding of what good quality pre-primary education looks like. 86% of the head teachers recognise the importance of pre-primary education following the intervention. And since doing this project, 500 pre-primary teachers are now being paid on the government payroll in Rwanda. So in the whole of Rwanda, we only have 500 teachers on the payroll, but prior to this project, there were only 50. So by doing a lot of advocacy work at national level, we've been able to support the recognition of the importance of pre-primary level education in Rwanda, which is fantastic.
Amy, this is your 1 minute, but feel free to take, a minute or two to finish.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, just a couple more quotes here from our project, and another example of how the classrooms are looking now since our intervention. So the head teachers, the teachers and the nursery students have benefited from increased self-confidence, increased knowledge in the competence-based curriculum and the early childhood methodology, including play-based learning, and an improved ability in teaching and positive behaviour management approaches. So this was our first Small Charities Challenge Fund grant. And we were lucky enough to secure a second one, which is running from January to December this year, which we've called Equip Phase 2. And in this project, we're taking the same course that features the Rwandan teachers and students to all of the teacher training colleges across Rwanda. So I think so far we've had about 1,400 students complete the course so far this year, which for us is a big achievement, because we're used to just working in one school with a small number of teachers and a small number of children. So through the SCCF fund, we've been able to massively increase our impact. And we hope to be able to roll it out to all of the pre-primary teachers across Rwanda next year, if we're able to get additional funding. And then for sustainability purposes, to hand over the course to the government and get it uploaded onto their website, and hopefully 0 rated, which would allow any teacher to access it without it costing them any internet. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. My contact details are here. Do feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Amy. That's so interesting to hear about. I love the plan to be working with the government and to be making this available for all teachers in Rwanda. That sounds great. So would you like to stop sharing your screen, Amy, and we'll get everyone's faces back up, and we'll see whether anybody has any questions for you. So if anyone's got a question, if you can use the raise your hand function, or you can raise your actual real hand if your video is on and I can see you, and we'll see whether anyone's got any questions for Amy. I had a question to kick us off, actually, Amy, while others are perhaps thinking of anything that they might like to ask you, because I haven't seen anything come through just yet. I was just interested to know whether you had any kind of pushback from teachers on the alternative behaviour management approaches. I've worked in similar contexts in Kenyan schools, and I know that we had to certainly do some work with teachers and parents around kind of encouraging alternative behaviour management approaches. I just wondered what your experience has been on that.
Sure, yeah. So originally I took our model school, Umubano Academy, through quite a lot of behaviour management training. And it was very interesting. Like when we opened the school, there was still quiet incidents of corporal punishment, and maybe like not so obvious as beating the children, but little things like asking the child to kneel at the back of the classroom and things like that, which is still, physical punishments. So the first thing that I found when we said that corporal punishment was not allowed and wouldn't be tolerated, we basically found teachers didn't know what to do in the absence of that. And so they did nothing. And the children ran a little bit free, let's say, and thought that they could get away with everything without any consequences. So I went back to my teacher training from the UK and looked at some of the strategies that I'd learned, and picked out just 2 or 3 really simple things. So we introduced behaviour management triangles, where you have a rewards triangle and a consequence triangle, and you write down with the children, you agree what goes on each step of the triangle as like a hierarchy of rewards and a hierarchy of consequences. And for some reason, it just really clicked with the teachers at our school, and they loved it. And we've done kind of surveys on the staff to see which strategies over the years they found most effective, what they think would translate well into rural schools and that kind of thing. And based on that feedback, that was something that they thought other teachers would really be able to relate to, because for them, they kind of reported having a fear of not knowing what else to do if you're not allowed to punish a child physically. So that's kind of how we did it. We worked really collaboratively with that one school, tried it out, looked at what worked, spent a few years really refining that process, and then getting their feedback and inputs and filming them doing it properly in the classroom, so we could use that as a model to include in our training courses for the rural schools. Yeah, and so far we've had good responses from the rural teachers as well, because they can see people that they relate to in these videos and in the training course, explaining it to them in Kinyarwanda, in the language that they speak. And yeah, nobody ever gets to see me anywhere. I'm just hidden behind it all, so they don't even realize that the ideas had any influence from me, and they've been very, very much refined over the years by Rwandan teachers working in the Rwandan context. So I think that's how we made that effective.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments, anything that anyone would like to share for Amy before we move on to our next case study? Okay, thank you, Amy. Thanks so much for sharing that. Oh, sorry, Anna, yes.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to ask Amy if you could tell us a little bit more about the process of setting up the apps for the teachers, how that went, because we're in the middle of a similar sort of project, and we're finding it quite difficult. We work in rural India, we're finding it quite difficult to reach out to all the teachers and to make sure that all the teachers learn about the app, especially with the current pandemic in India. Is there any tips, any advice that you could give us?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that made it so effective for us was going through the local government. So we had all of our material validated by the Rwandan Education Board. And then we actually got the Director General of the Rwandan Education Board to write to all of the mayors of the districts where they would be using our online materials to kind of recommend us, to recognize that we had been approved and validated, and to highlight the value in doing our course. And we also provide certificates to people who complete the course, and that's stamped by the Rwandan Education Board, which I think again adds that kind of validity to it. So yeah, I think just my advice would be finding really strong communication mechanisms that allow the teachers to hear from trusted sources how valuable what you're providing is. And then as much as possible providing tech support. So we had, in our course, we had a WhatsApp line dedicated to providing technical support. We also had WhatsApp groups for the teachers who had WhatsApp, so they could share photos of what was going on in their classrooms and encourage each other through that. And we would send out like one message a week through those channels. And we have quite good uptake of WhatsApp usage in Rwanda, so that works for us. I'm not sure whether that's the case in India, but that helped. And then just allowing them, just a phone number. So if they had any problems, I think we would get, at least 1 or 2 phone calls a week where somebody would say, I can't click onto the next page or something. And when they had ICT issues, there would be someone in our office who could support them with that directly.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thanks, Amy. So the majority of them, you said that they'd done it on their own. They hadn't needed any support. Is that right?
Yeah. I think it was because we asked them about that. I think maybe it was about 60% who were able to do it on their own without support, and others either found a more competent teacher or head teacher to support them, or they used one of the channels that we provided to give them more support.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Marlene, did I see your hand raised? Did you have a question for Amy? And Sarah, I can see you've got your hand raised as well. So we'll come to you after Marlene, Sarah.
Yeah, so currently we are running almost a similar education project, or let's say that it's a campaign. It's called the African Child Book Campaign. So we have started distributing like books, reading like storybooks especially. We're trying to encourage kids to read who come from marginalized communities. So we are distributing to them a solar light that is supposed to aid them. So my question to Amy was, since we have already launched, and it's we are trying to also help the children be in a position to articulate themselves. So we are trying to teach them how to write reports from a very young age. So I was trying to ask, do you think that is somehow a viable idea, or we should first train them on maybe issues first on reading and articulation and things like self-confidence, or we can just first roll with it and then let's say, learn through the process?
I think there's definitely a lot of learning to be done during the process. And it's great if you can kind of be flexible in your programming. Because of COVID, we had to change some of the ways that we were planning to work quite significantly. So I think it's really good to have like constant feedback loops and get that information back from your beneficiaries and see how they're doing. If you want to kind of focus on report writing, I think go for it and see how they get on, and then maybe edit it accordingly. Perhaps you could pilot with a smaller number first and see how they respond before taking it out on a bigger scale. We've got a lot of good, useful feedback from piloting things first, even simple things such as language that we've used that we thought was understandable. In fact, because it was in Kinyarwanda, but it turns out that the language that's used in the curriculum is quite challenging for teachers in rural areas. So if you pilot it first, perhaps you'd get more of an indicator of whether it's likely to be successful or whether some changes could be made. But it sounds really interesting, Marlene. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your work, and we can always chat more offline as well.
Great, thank you. Sarah, do you want to go ahead with your question for Amy?
Yes, thank you. Sarah Istvan, ACT for Africa. Thank you, Amy, for sharing your experiences with us. It was really interesting. My apologies, I had some technical issues and joined late, so I missed the beginning section, but I'm kind of trying to gather what it is that you do. So we have a kindergarten we have a partner NGO in Uganda, and we have a education and health and education community centre, part of which is a kindergarten for 3 to 6 year olds, which we have, which teaches the Ugandan early childhood development curriculum. But we've done our best to train the teachers to use kind of continuous provision and learning through play as well. And the kindergarten is kind of laid out in a way that facilitates that as well, with areas for sand and water play and malleable materials and book corners and role play, etc. But we've really we've tried to support them from a distance, which is never ideal in terms of kind of developing their skills and their sort of different kind of teaching and learning practices. So we're looking now to support them in country. We're aiming to be more locally led in all areas. So we're looking for mentors within Uganda that have an experience and understanding of learning through play. But I've just wondered whether it's an app you've developed, I take. Sorry, apologies, I missed the beginning. But is it something that is sort of transferable to other African countries, or is it what's your feeling about whether that would be something that could be used by other early years teachers in other countries?
Yeah, so it's an online course, so it's on our own website. It's on Umubano Academy's website. Our course it's entirely written in Kinyarwanda. So I think it would depend on where in Uganda your teachers are as to whether, I'm sure they would pick up quite a lot because it's a Bantu language, but it may not be as effective for them. But there are videos in each of the units which demonstrate play-based learning, which I think they could also learn from, even if they didn't understand all of it. And I mean, the way that we created the course, we created it collaboratively with Rwandan teachers using the Rwandan curriculum and really focusing on the Rwandan classroom. So sure. I think some of it is transferable, but some of it is also quite specific because that was how we wanted it to be. We really were trying to bring Rwandan competence-based curriculum to life, especially because many of the teachers in Rwanda, they have the curriculum in the classroom, but they've never actually looked at it. Which we established during our feasibility study. So I think there is some transferability, but there would need to be some more work done. We'd definitely be interested in considering that. But I think my advice would be to find schools in Uganda that are doing it really well and use them as your focal point for developing it if you want to develop your own materials. But I'm very happy to share with you. And if you have some people in Uganda who want to look at it and see how much is understandable for them, then yeah, we're very happy to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll connect with you after. Thank you very much.
So with thank you, Amy, and thank you for your question, Sarah. So with time in mind, we'll move on to our next case study. But Amy, I hope this is okay with you, but I was going to suggest if anyone's got any other questions, they can either pop them in the chat function for you, or you kindly shared your email address. So if you're happy to be contacted, if anybody has a burning question that we've not had a chance to go through, that would be great. So we'll move on then now to Marlene, who's joining us from Nairobi, and she's going to tell us about her work with Africala Arts. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Marlene. Just allow me to set this up very shortly.
Yeah, just take your time. I know how difficult it is trying to do technical stuff whilst also talking and introducing yourself. I've also got your presentation if needed. Oh, that looks great.
Yes. So my name is Marlene. I am the founder of Africala Arts. Though that is not the only thing I do, I also am a volunteer in a number of charitable organizations, because I usually help young organizations set up their projects. So I'm good at project planning and development. But personally, I founded Africala Arts with the need in mind that a lot of youth lately have been going through a lot of mental health challenges. And at Africala Arts, we come from a society where mental health is, people usually say that it's a way of kind of people to seek attention and the like. So more often you find that mental health issues are often ignored, even by your own close relatives and individuals. So personally, I formed this during the pandemic, because once the pandemic struck, most of us lost our jobs. Actually, I think the first week that the first case was announced in our country, our former boss just sent us letters to say that we have been dismissed without pay till further notice. And till today, we haven't yet gotten our feedback. So I think we just had to, what can I say, adapt to the current conditions. But during that time, we found that not everybody was in a position to adapt. Most of us fell into depression. Most of them have never been able to recover from one thing or the other. So, and that's why I got the need to form Africala Arts. So Africala Arts is a youth-led organization. Well, definitely, being an art, we have kind of focused more on the art aspect, because while I was interacting during the pandemic period, I found out that most of the people who were affected the most were youth, especially creatives dealing in different artistic industries. For example, photographers, videographers, and other young individuals who are trying to thrive in, let's say, the current conditions, because you find that in our country right now, there is very low job opportunities or income generating kind of activities. So people are trying to say that it is the one that is currently being related by the high rates of crime. But in real sense, it's because most people have not been able to adapt to the new normal. So most of them are struggling with one thing or the other. So on mental health, Africala Arts comes in and tries to help creatives by engaging them in different creative projects. So in these creative projects, we partner with other charitable organizations and non-profit organizations, where we kind of help them create content for their website, for their activities. These are even advocacy kind of videos. We have been able to partner with a number of organizations since we formed Africala Art. That was in late October last year. We have been able to partner with 2 organizations to create content for them and run their social medias. So through these activities, we have been able to engage different creatives in also being volunteers into different organizations. So we have been able to keep them engaged, and we have found that by keeping them engaged and supporting them while including them in things that they find value in, you find that some of them have been able to heal, some of them have been able to form individual businesses when they knew that there was a support system for them. So most people can ask why we chose to focus on mental health. But when around our society, you find that personally, for a very long period of time, I struggled with my mental health. That is especially between March and October when we formed Africa La Arts. So I was not sure exactly what to do. I was not sure if I should find a job. At that time I was volunteering, but I found that maybe the volunteering was not bringing enough to maybe pay the bills and here and there. But by forming Africa La Art, we were able to be involved in projects that have been able to generate a little bit of income that has been shared through advocacy programs. We have been doing a little of advocacy programs and running some support groups. So we have been trying to help. I formed it as a way to help each other. But you find that as time goes by, more youth are in need of mental health support. So we have found that it is important for us to be forming more support groups in different areas so that we can be able to maybe have those, we usually call them the tough talks, the talks that most people don't want to talk about. So during these support sessions, we call people like psychiatrists, people who we are sure can help different individuals. So we have been working with volunteer psychiatrists and psychologists who have been supporting in one way or the other, because it has been a volunteer. So most of them have been working pro bono in some of their activities, which has been able to help us rehabilitate a number of individuals through different programs. It's funny that we have a case study of someone who was really active before the COVID-19, but just before COVID, he lost his job. So when he lost his job, things kind of changed in his life, and he ended up getting too deep into drugs and substance abuse. So since that time, we were able to walk through with him in the same journey. We were able to support his sessions. We brought a psychologist on board and even doctors who are treating him with antidepressants. And till to date, I can say that he is 3 months clean. So he was able to get back. He's now running the projects with us. He's a very good editor and photographer. So he has been really engaged in the creation of content. And when you see that there is positive change like that, it encourages us to maybe do more, because through the same, we have also been encouraging individual creative businesses. So you found that I can say that creatives somehow feel like they have a reputation to maintain. So you find that in most cases, they tend to fall easily into depression, because you can find that at that time, they don't have the jobs that bring in, but they want to maintain a certain status quo. So you find that they struggle, they end up borrowing, and they end up being in debt. So we are trying to bring about financial training management programs that can help the youth be able to maintain their finances, understand that sometimes it's not about pleasing people, but being in a position to sustain your own self with a vision to either improve your finances or even try to create something else. So the reason we are focusing on more mentorship and empowerment and inclusion and engagement is so that we can be able to encourage those who need that encouragement. Because we found that from time to time, I have been able to come across different individuals in different industries. You find that some of them are very highly educated. Some of them even have masters, but with the current job situation in Kenya, it's very hard to secure a job. So you find that people like that do not understand why they cannot get into the job market while they have invested so much in their education, invested so much into learning. So we are trying to create opportunities where we can empower these people to be self-sufficient. Instead of focusing on being job seekers, they can think of something in their passion and focus on being job creators. So we are trying to shift the mindset into stop wanting to be employed to thinking of creating your own sustainable employment, because that one will ensure your financial security, your job security, and much more. It will give you some peace of mind if you are able to be trained in the right way. Plus, as we are forming the programs around mentorship and empowerment and mental health advocacy, we are also looking into including these individuals in training others. Because right now we may have a small group that is growing, okay, because it's been like 9 months now, but you find that the number is increasing. It's like they're telling each other that, if you need that kind of support, we know so and so who can help you, they can take you through the journey. So you find that different people have been, what can I say? They have been recommending whatever we've been doing with other creatives to other youth. So we find that the number is growing. And right now I have been sustaining the organization with different consultancy jobs because I am a part-time consultant, communications consultant. I help small charitable organizations within the country create content. So, and also develop their communication strategies, launch their social media campaigns. So through those consultancies, I have been investing on this other side to try and promote the programs because it is still a young organization. So it was a little bit hard to try and apply for funding because we haven't even had our first audited accounts. So there is that bit that different people want certain, there are certain requirements for eligibility to funding, but I have been able to find very good volunteers, and they have been able to help.
Sorry, Marnie, this is your 1 minute reminder.
Thank you, Vic. So let me just straightly go to activities. So on these activities, we have been focusing on creative projects. So this creative project, someone may ask, what kind of creative project? So you find that there are different people in the country who want to be developed content for. We have vloggers, we have charitable organizations who want short videos for their case studies. Some of them want for their advocacy campaigns. Some just want to document good photos for their websites and social media. So we have been involving these creatives and training them to be in a position to give those services. So, and then as more organizations are recommended to us, we find that there are more opportunities to engage these young individuals in things that they find very valuable, because it is good that most of them are taking it as giving back to the community. So you find that they're able to even do more for this organization without asking for high amounts of remuneration and the like. So we are also forming support groups in different regions. Okay, right now we have been forming them around Nairobi. This was because Nairobi for some point was on lockdown. So we were not able to leave the county. So we decided that we are going to form these support groups within this county. And these support groups have been able to really help a lot of people. And at the moment, we are trying to create a community, a young people's podcast that can help people be able to understand how to tackle different challenges and how to learn how to seek help, because most people feel like if they seek help, there will be a backlash in society or something of the sort. So we're trying to create a video podcast that people can be able to access, especially the young generation, where they can be able to find this information easily, because most of them, we find that they have smartphones. And then now we have the empowerment and mentorship, and we're trying to also focus on advocacy and engaging more youth in charitable activities. So with that, we are kind of forming a fully non-profit organization called The Watch, that our aim is to watch out for each other. So we haven't yet finalized the registration, but we have been told that we wait for like several weeks, but soon we are going to be able to form the watch that is going to launch specifically advocacy programs that are going to reach out to more youth and more creatives out there. So thank you. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I am going to take questions.
Thank you. That was so interesting to hear about. And actually, I work on this project with the FSI one day a week, but in my day job, I'm the co-director of a organization working with young people in Kenya and in Nairobi. So I would love to connect with you after this as well, Marlene, to hear more about what you're doing, and hopefully we can collaborate.
Thank you.
So does anybody have a question that they would like to put to Marlene? I've got a quick one to start us off while others are thinking. I was wondering what the age range is that you tend to be working with, because I know that each country has its own set of kind of parameters in terms of what's defined as a young person. What kind of age group do you mostly work with?
Right now, I am working with the age group of 18 to 35, but most of them are still under 28. So we only have one member who is an actor. Used to be a very good actor, but I don't know, something just happened between the way, and right now they're not very active, but we have been able to encourage him to go back to study. So he's currently in school trying to study about production. So he's also a very good script writer who has been helping us script content for different individuals. So that is the only person that we have between the 30 and 35, but the rest are below 28, including myself.
Brilliant, thank you. That's really good to know. I'll definitely be getting in touch with you with my day job hat on. Do we have any other questions? Of course, if you do think of a question after this moment, you can pop that in the chat, and we can always come to that at the end. I just want to make sure that we've got plenty of time left for our breakout rooms after Dan's presentation. Okay, so thank you so much, Marlene. That was really interesting. If any questions come up in the chat, I will direct them to you. But for now, we'll move on to hear from Dan, who, like me, is in sunny Yorkshire. And he's going to be telling us about his organisation, Strengthening Families and Children, SFAC. We're just seeing Dan's screen now, so over to you when you're ready. Thanks very much.
Trying to get it on. Can you see it on the screen now?
I can see it, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll put it on. There we go. Well, there we are. Okay. So basically what SFAC stands for is Strengthening Families and Children. And we work globally. We work can possibly work in every country. To date, we've worked in around 45 countries over the last 19 years. And we exist really from this kind of statement, really, that caring for children is hard. Any of you who are parents will know that. But caring for vulnerable children can be even harder. And one of the things that kind of prompted SFAC to exist was the reality of that from both of our experiences as practitioners. So all of us working at SFAC have experience and qualifications in social work, in therapeutic work, or in legal services. When I first started here in the UK, working in a children's home, I had no training, I had no qualifications, but I was working with the most vulnerable children, and I was basically making it up. Same as when I went to work out in Kenya. I had no training, and I even had less knowledge because I wasn't familiar with the culture. And around the world, that is a shared experience of many people working with children, that training is not something that people can easily access. And so, if I can, there we go. And so a lack of training and qualified staff has been something that exists around globally, and it has a kind of consequence. And the consequence of that we have seen through the proliferation around of children's homes, proliferation of very few child protection services, and uncertainty about alternatives to how we can look after children through family care systems. And certainly for me, we all have good intentions and want to do well, but it's about knowledge and skills aligned with experience that helps us turn our good intentions into good practice. So what we do at SFAC is first of all look at what we call either a community of services or a continuum of services that are provided by organisations around the world. So we kind of talk about that as green being universal services, services that are available to anyone in the community. And as we get further across, we get more specialist. Oops, sorry, there we go. Very sensitive mouse there. We get more specialist until we get into the orange and red zones, which are around about child protection work and the provision of care for children who we don't believe are safe living with their families. So what we do as an organisation is we take a multidisciplinary approach. We have social workers, we have lawyers, and we have those qualified in therapeutic work and psychologists. And we will work with organisations in any of these three areas, whether they're providing support services, whether they're providing child protection services, or whether they're providing care services, to review the quality of kind of services that are being provided, and to look at ways that we can support and develop new services or improvements to services. But also identify what you're doing well, because one of the big things that we all forget about is about identifying strengths. And we do that through a combination of consultation services, training services, or coaching and mentoring. And certainly for us, coaching and mentoring is often kind of forgotten about in this kind of sector. And it's about really how you apply learning on that day-to-day basis that is vital when working in kind of complex areas of child protection and care services. So I want to talk about an example of a project that we have done over many, many years in Paraguay, because it kind of shows all elements of our work. So initially that started in 2008, and this is Mick Pease, our founder, delivering some training programs to a small Paraguayan NGO called Red Viva, who are interested in being able to develop in Paraguay alternatives to children's homes being the only resort for children who were vulnerable. From there, that led to us being able to start to train both orphanage directors in Paraguay and also the government, who became interested in learning about how alternatives could be developed, what they meant, why would they have better advantages or disadvantages to the children that they were working with. So in the top picture, there I was training in an actual orphanage with a number of orphanage staff in the local area. And in the bottom, the following day, we were with the government officials, and the person right at the very front in the tie was actually the children's minister for Paraguay, who attended our entire training course. From there, it led to them and the government minister feeling very positive about the fact that change could happen, and change needed to happen if Paraguay wanted to look after its children in a way that didn't leave many of them stranded in children's homes that we knew from research was having very poor outcomes. So they sent a delegation to the UK to come and have a look at a system here. And we do that, and we facilitate those visits for organisations with an understanding that our system is by no means perfect. And there are things that we do that can be learned from, but there are also things that organisations can identify that they do that we do not do, which kind of strengthens their understanding of what they are doing well. And certainly for in Paraguay, they have a very multidisciplinary approach in their child protection, which they kind of realized was a huge positive and strength for them from this visit. From there, however, we realized that there was one big area of work that needed to happen. Often when we are working with organizations, people can work with an organization to change and say, we're moving from an orphanage or children's home model to foster care. And they might recognize that that needs both a social work element and a therapeutic element through training carers to work with very vulnerable children. But in some countries, that also needs the legal side to be addressed, because decisions about where children live are made by the courts. And in Paraguay, as in many areas of Latin America, that is very much the case. So we needed to bring the judiciary on board. So using our links with UK Aid and Roll UK, when UK Aid had money and was funding Roll UK, which I'm not sure about now, we were able to get funding to bring over lawyers and judges from the UK that we have connections to, and host a conference with judges and lawyers working in Paraguay. Down in the bottom is all of the High Court judges and lower court judges in Paraguay. And in the picture at the top is the Supreme Court of Paraguay, who were very interested in promoting this work. So that started to bring a movement. And from there, Paraguay, through the small organization that we began at the very beginning, started to become the consultants to the Paraguayan government and judiciary. And they created a conjoint protocol to look at how can we promote and support alternative care in Paraguay and improve the child protection systems. Our job then moved to becoming the consultants to the consultants of the Paraguayan government. And our role really was to add our experiences and knowledge into areas that they were not fully experienced or confident in. In addition to that, we work now with a very small Paraguayan charity who was set up to provide foster care services from someone who attended our training and felt, well, let's try and deliver foster care in Paraguay through the formal system. They'd recognized that foster care exists as it does in every country in an organic way, naturally within communities, but how can we make this work in a more formal context? So we now work with Dulce Semelita, in my very poor Spanish presentation. In English, they've translated it to be little neighbor. And we provide various training to them to develop a foster care program. So that has involved the social work elements of how to do assessments of carers, how to do assessments of whether children should be appropriately placed in their program. We've done therapeutic work with carers and therapeutic work with their staff about how to support carers, identify the needs, especially trauma needs of many of the children in their care. And we have worked with their lawyer who provides case work within the court system for children who are in their program who they are looking to move from a foster care placement back to families in reunification or into extended family where they've identified a member of the family able to care for the child. And through that, we've also provide a lot of case consultations on live cases to help them process their thinking as they develop their experience, because this is all new to them and they don't really have any experience locally in Paraguay to draw on. So our impact basically states that we've helped them and supported them. Although I think the thing that we enjoy the most is that they found our training was fun, but also importantly that it was affordable, that it was accessible. And it showed an example for us about how if we work from the bottom and work from the top, we can create change. But we've not just worked in Paraguay, as I said before, we've worked in around 45 different countries to date. In Kurdistan in Iraq, We've helped set up with a UK small charity, a first foster care program there. In Brazil, with another small Brazilian charity, a foster care program. In India, we do a lot of work supporting a small NGO working with people who have been sexual trafficked, and we do a lot of therapeutic work with them to support their rehabilitation of those people. And in Morocco, we work with a small UK organisation, initially setting up a first foster care program that's now evolving to setting up the first child protection system nationally in that country. And we have numerous other examples. And I think some of what is a common theme within there is that small charities can make a massive difference, and that we often find that working with small charities creates change in a country. And through our work, I think we highlight kind of very key points that caring and protecting children is hard work, but that if we want to do well, we need to know what good is. And that comes from knowledge, that comes from training, reviewing and mentoring. And it comes from support from your peers. And that we need to share that knowledge and experiences globally as well as locally. And that we need to understand where we are in the system. You know, understanding our role is really important to understanding then what we do and how we do it. And that we need to be child focused in our work, especially around issues of safety and analytical thinking, and trying really to replicate what parents do if we provide care. And finally, I would like to kind of highlight some of our values are about being accessible. For us, as a small charity, we want to make sure that everyone can access our services. So we provide services at a range of different costs, from free to full cost, depending on people's ability to pay. But it's also important that we know our limits. So part of it is accepting the fact that we are not experts in everything, especially in terms of culture and context, so that we work very much in a partnership role where we bring in our concepts, but no, there is no one model of doing practice. There is no one way of doing it. Every program is unique and every program will be different. But we're also around for the long term. We want to be available whenever an organisation needs some support. And this is who we are. So Mick was our founder in 2002. He's just recently written a book about his experiences because in his life, his sister spent time and was abused in an orphanage in the UK. And he talks about that as part of his story, from being a coal miner to being an international advocate for family care. There's myself as CEO. There's Caitlin, who's my wife and a psychologist, who's spent many times working in India. There's Ranjit, who is a lawyer who provides free pro bono support to organisations. And there's Joseph, who's our first overseas-based contractor and trainer, currently based in Uganda. So that's us, SFAC. We provide legal, social, therapeutic training, mentoring and support to organisations, governments and judiciaries, wherever they are based around in the world.
Thank you, Dan. I love hearing about all of that collaboration with other small charities. That just that's right up my street, and that's what hopefully sessions like this can enable even more of that peer collaboration. And I think, as you say, and as you kind of alluded to in your presentation, so much amazing change can happen through networks of small organizations like the people that we've got in this room here today. So thanks so much for taking the time to tell us about your work. We're going to be going into some breakout rooms in a moment. Before we do, would anybody like to ask a question to Dan, or perhaps let us know if you're working in similar areas, or anything that you want to clarify with Dan from his presentation before we split off into our smaller groups. Okay.
I'd
Yes.
just like to say I'd love to connect with Dan after the meeting as well, rather than take up time within the meeting. really interested to hear you've got somebody out on the ground in Uganda as well. I'd love to talk to you another time if possible. I presume we'll be able to get contact details through the FSI and things, will we?
Yeah, definitely.
My email's in the chat as well, and Joseph's the start of having overseas-based people as well, and that will kind of develop over the years as we bring more people on board into that role, which is an exciting development for us.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, we'll definitely share contact details, and we can help kind of facilitate connections, or equally, if it's easier for individuals just to reach out, you know, whatever works best for you. But we'll cover you from all bases at this end, so that we make sure that you can all stay connected after this. Have we got any other questions for Dan before we do some networking with each other? Okay. So we're going to go into some breakout rooms. We've got about 20 people here, so I think I'll put us into 4 breakout rooms. So it'll be sort of 4 or 5 people in each room. I'm going to try and pop in as well. If you want me to come in and join your room, there's an ask for help button, which will summon me into your breakout room. So please feel free to use that. And rather than just set you off with no kind of direction. We had some feedback the last time we did one of these thematic sessions, that when people went into their breakout rooms, they spent the entire time just introducing themselves and their charities, and so they didn't really get into any more kind of meaty discussion. So I think probably what would be best is if you very briefly say your name and the kind of the broad theme area that your charity works in. So perhaps your name, the name of your charity, and maybe just something as simple as children, young children, education, young people, families, something like that. And once you've all got a little bit of a sense of who's who and what's what, if you could take some time, we'll probably have 10 or 15 minutes or so in these breakout rooms to talk about perhaps a challenge that is facing your organization at the minute that you'd like some peer support or ideas with. Perhaps something that you'd like to get from future networking, if you're planning to connect with people outside of this session. So there are 2 kind of themes for you to talk around if you're struggling for topics of conversation. And as I say, use the call for help button if you need any help, and I'll be popping in and out of the rooms if I can work out how to do that on Zoom. So here we go. You're going to be automatically assigned to a room in a moment. And I look forward to hearing about your discussion when we all come back together. Here we go. Remy, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hello, right. I'm looking at the instructions on Zoom of how to join these, right? And my kind of dashboard just doesn't look the same as whatever I'm seeing on these. Oh, okay, I found it. Okay, never mind. Ignore me. I found it.
I think, yes. I think I have the option to join actually, because I'm a host. It looks like you can pop in.
I've just seen that you have to like hover your mouse over where the join button is, or it doesn't show up. So I'm gonna just pop into each of the rooms and see how things are going. Do you want to maybe be in a room just?
Yeah, okay, sure.
If the conversation's sounding a bit stilted, you could just encourage people to. So the 2 sort of topics that I'd suggested was if anyone's got a challenge or particular thing that they wanted to get some advice on, or kind of what kind of networking they want to be able to do with their peers if they were to be connected, so what they'd really be looking for from peer networking. So I'll go in room 1 to start with.
Shall I go in room 3? I was invited to that one anyway.
Okay, perfect.
Or 2, I suppose, whatever. I'll go into 3, shall I?
Yes, go for 3. Actually, I will join room 2 because there's only 3 people in there.
Yes, okay.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah, we all come back to the room again.
I know.
Here we go. Here we go. Somebody's changing. Excellent. We're back with.
We're back.
We're back and extra chatty after our breakout room, I think.
What's that?
We're back and extra chatty.
Oh,
We've
good.
got lots to say. It was lovely. Really nice.
Just as you were all getting onto a roll, I'm sure it does tend to happen that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We were just having, as everyone's starting to come back in, we were just having a chat about the child sponsorship approach and moving away from child sponsorship and how to move to a more sustainable model of supporting families to then be able to support their children. So I've just posted in the chat a link to a blog that I wrote a while ago about child sponsorship, and we also talked about possibly coming together with anybody else who might be interested in talking to some peers about moving away from a child sponsorship model. I know that it's kind of how a lot of us started off, and I think more and more organizations now are seeking to move away from that. So perhaps in the follow-up email that we send you, we'll just ask if anybody would be interested in joining a group session on that. Okay, so we are at time now. I hope you all enjoyed your breakout sessions. Some people might have dropped off now, or hopefully nobody's sat there in a breakout room on their own wondering where everyone's gone. So Remy, did I see you just try to do the poll? I'm going to try it again now and just see if it comes up for everyone. Here we go. So you should have seen a poll just quickly pop up on your screen. If you'd be interested in being connected to a peer who's been at this session through the FSI, we can take out some of the legwork for you. If you just click yes or yes please or no thanks, then we will look to connect you with a peer from this group. Equally, if you just want to connect to a particular person who you've identified through being here, we'll be sharing the chat with everybody by email in the follow-up as well. So you'll have access to anybody who shared their emails in there, and we'll also be sharing the video of the presentations and the presentations themselves on the learning portal at some point tomorrow or the next day. So however you do it, if you want to stay in touch, there are plenty of options to do that. So you've got another couple of seconds.
Can I just add that the peer matching is available to anyone? It's not people who's just come along to the event. So if anyone thinks, oh, I've got a colleague or someone who'd be up for it, it's on there's a form to fill out, give us a bit more info on the site. So it's just to sorry, Vic, just to mention that it's for everyone. So do mention it if there's someone in mind that might be interested.
Can everybody actually see this poll? Because it looks like nobody's responded to it. So I don't know if you can see.
Oh no, I think no. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, people have. We've got it.
Is it okay? It must just be not showing for me for some reason. So I'm going to end the poll now. Then cool. Thank you for everyone who's done that, and thanks so much for everyone who's come. And I hope you found it useful. And I do hope we can all stay in touch in some shape after this. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you again at another FSI event in the future. Thank you very much, everyone, and thanks again to our fantastic case studies for telling us about your work. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.